I want to talk about the Farm Bill, how positive that is, and I want to talk about the wall, and I will tell you it's a tough issue because we are on very opposite sides of, I really think I can say border security, but certainly the wall. But the wall will get built. A lot of the wall is built. It's been very effective. I asked for a couple of notes on that. If you look at San Diego, illegal traffic dropped 92% once the wall was up. El Paso, illegal traffic dropped 72%, then ultimately 95% once the wall was up. In Tucson, Arizona, illegal traffic dropped 92%. Yuma, it dropped illegal traffic 95 to 96%. I mean, and that when I say dropped, the only reason we even have any percentage where people got through is because they walk and go around areas that aren't built. It dropped virtually 100% in the areas where the wall is. So, I mean, it's very effective. If you really want to find out how effective a wall is, just ask Israel. 99.9% effective. And our wall will be every bit as good as that, if not better. So we've done a lot of work on the wall. A lot of wall is built. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of wall is renovated. We have walls that were in very bad condition that are now in A1 tip-top shape. Frankly, some wall has been reinforced by our military. Our military has done a fantastic job. So the wall will get built, but we may not have an agreement today. We probably won't. But we have an agreement on other things that are really good. Nancy, would you like to say something?
Well, thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity to meet with you so that we can work together in a bipartisan way to meet the needs of the American people. I think the American people recognize that we must keep government open, that a shutdown is... The point is that there are equities to be weighed, and we're here to have a conversation in a prayerful way, so I don't think we should have a debate in front of the press on this, but the fact is the House Republicans could bring up this bill, if they had the votes, immediately and set the tone for what you want.
If we thought we were going to get it passed in the Senate, Nancy, we would do it immediately. We'd get it passed very easily in the House. Yeah, we would get it, Nancy, I'd have it passed in 2 seconds. It doesn't matter, though, because we can't get it passed in the Senate because we need 10 Democrat votes. That's the problem.
Again, let us have our conversation, then we can meet with the press again. But the fact is that legislating, which is what we do, right. You begin, you make your point, you state your case. That's what the House Republicans could do if they had the votes. But there are no votes in the House, a majority of votes, for a wall, no matter where you start.
If I wanted it. But I can't because I need, Nancy, I need 10 votes from Chuck.
Let me just say one thing. The fact is, you do not have the votes in the House.
Nancy, I do. And we need border security.
Nancy, we'll find out.
Nancy, we need border security. It's very simple.
Of course we do.
We need border security. People are pouring into our country, including terrorists. We have terrorists. We caught 10 terrorists over the last very short period of time. 10. These are very serious people. Our border agents, all of our law enforcement has been incredible what they've done. But we caught 10 terrorists. These are people that were looking to do harm. We need the wall. We need, more important than anything, we need border security, of which the wall is important. Chuck, did you want to say something?
Here's what I want to say. We have a lot of disagreements here. The Washington Post today gave you a whole lot of Pinocchios because they say you constantly misstate how much the wall is built, how much of the wall is built, and how much is there. But that's not the point here. We have a disagreement about the wall, whether it's effective or not. Not on border security, but on the wall. We do not want to shut down the government. You were called 20 times to shut down the government. You say, I want to shut down the government. We don't. We want to come to an agreement. If we can't come to an agreement, we have solutions that will pass the House and Senate right now and will not shut down the government, and that's what we're urging you to do. Not threaten to shut down the government because you
shut down the government
because you can't get your way.
The last time you shut it down, you got killed.
Let me say something, Mr. President. You just say my way or we'll shut down the government. We have a proposal that Democrats and Republicans will support to do a CR that will not shut down the government. We urge you to take it.
And if it's not good border security, I won't take it.
It is very good border security.
And if it's not good border security, I won't take it.
It's what
because when you look at these numbers of the effectiveness of our border security, and when you look at the job that we're doing with our military,
it is effective.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah, you just said
without a wall, these are only areas where you have the walls.
We want to do
where
this.
You have walls, Chuck, it's effective. Where you don't have walls, it is not effective.
Let's call a halt to this. we've come in here as the first branch of government, the Article 1, the legislative branch. We're coming in good faith to negotiate with you about how we can keep the government
About what
going.
has been done. We want to do the same thing we did last year, this year. That's our proposal. If it's good then, it's good now, and it won't shut down the government.
Chuck, we can build a
But that's
much
it.
bigger
Let's-
section
let's
with
debate-
more money.
let's
We have
debate in
taken
private.
this
Okay?
conversation
Yeah,
to a
let's
place
debate in private.
That is devoid, frankly, of fact, and we can
We need
dispel
border
that.
security. I think we all agree that we need border security.
Yes,
Is that
we
right?
do.
Good.
We do.
See, we get along. Yeah, we need border security. The wall is a part of border security. You can't have very good border security without the wall, no.
That's simply not true.
Just
That
kidding.
is a political promise. Border security is a way to effectively honor our
And the
responsibility.
experts say you can do border security without a wall, which is wasteful and doesn't solve the problem.
It totally solves
But
the
I don't
problem.
want to take this,
And it's very
unfortunately, this has spiraled downward when we came at a place to say, how do we meet the needs of the American people who have needs?
The arrogance of these two legislators is astonishing. Nancy Pelosi cites the first branch of government as if she is queen and Schumer is king, and they're in there to school the upstart rebel prince in the person of Donald Trump. It just amazes me.
We came in here in good faith, and we are entering into this kind of a discussion in the public view.
But it's not bad,
Let
Nancy.
us, no,
It's
but
called transparency.
I know, it's not transparency when we're not stipulating to a set of facts, and when we want to have a debate with you about saying we confront some of those facts without
You know
saying
what?
to the
We need
public,
border security.
this
That's
isn't
what we're going to be
true.
talking about, border security. If we don't have border security, we'll shut down the government. This country needs border security.
We
The
agree
wall
with
is a
that.
part of border security. Let's have a talk. We're going to get the wall built, and we've done a lot of wall already. It's a big section. It's a big part of
Is
it.
it everything that you need?
It's a big part of it. We need to have effective border security. We need a wall in certain parts. No, not in all parts, but in certain parts of a 2,000-mile border, we need a wall. How much money? We are doing it much under budget. We're actually way under budget on the areas that we've renovated and areas that we've built. I would say if we got $5 billion, we could do a tremendous chunk of wall. Well, we're gonna see. Look, we have to have the wall. This isn't a question. This is a national emergency. Drugs are pouring into our country. People with tremendous medical difficulty and medical problems are pouring in, and in many cases, it's contagious. They're pouring into our country. We have to have border security. We have to have a wall as part of border security. And I don't think we really disagree so much. I also know that, Nancy's in a situation where it's not easy for her to talk right now, and I understand that, and I fully understand that. We're going to have a good discussion, and we're going to see what happens. But we have to have border security.
Mr. President,
Go sit.
please don't characterize the strength that I bring to this meeting as the leader of the House Democrats who just won a big victory. But let me just say,
And that's why the country's doing so well.
what the president is representing in terms of his cards over there are not factual. We have to have an evidence-based conversation about what does work, what money has been spent, and how effective it is. This is about the security of our country. We take an oath to protect and defend, and we don't want to have that mischaracterized by anyone. And
I agree with that.
we are
No, I agree with that.
we are so let us have a conversation where we don't have to contradict in public the statistics that you put forth, but instead can have a conversation about what will really work and what the American people deserve from us at this uncertain time in their lives where they have
One thing I think we can
apprehension.
agree on is we shouldn't shut down the government over a dispute. And you want to shut it down. You
No,
keep
no,
talking
no.
about
The
it.
last time, Chuck, you shut it down.
No.
And then you opened
20
it up very
times.
quickly. And
20
I don't
times.
want to do what you did.
20 times you
Chuck.
have called for, I will shut down the government if I don't get my wall. None of us have said.
You want to know something?
You've said it.
Okay, you want to put that on
You
my.
said it.
I'll take it.
Okay, good.
You know what I'll say? Yes. If we don't get what we want, one way or the other, whether it's through you, through a military, through anything you want to call, I will shut down the government.
Okay, fair
Absolutely.
enough.
And
We
I am
disagree.
proud, and I'll
We
tell you what,
disagree.
I am proud to shut down the government for border security, Chuck, because the people of this country don't want criminals and people that have lots of problems and drugs pouring into our country. So I will take the mantle. I will be the one to shut it down. I'm not going to blame you for it. The last time you shut it down, it didn't work. I will take the mantle of shutting down.
That is
And I'm going to
luxury.
shut it down for border
But we
security.
believe you shouldn't shut
Okay.
it down.
But
Thank you very much, everybody.
Press, let's go. Make your way out. Press, let's move.
Good morning. It is December 12th, 2018, Wednesday, 6:37 in the morning. Amazing. Totally amazing. So, what is our first headline today? Pelosi mocks U.S. President's manhood after White House meeting reports. And this is from Sputnik, and it was published this morning. Earlier today, U.S. President, which would have been yesterday, as was the clip we just presented, edited version, under Title 17, Section 107, for news, information, education, and discussion, the Fair Use Clause. The article reads, earlier today, U.S. President Donald Trump held a meeting in the White House with Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. The prospective House Chair, Nancy Pelosi, and Chuck Schumer, the Senate Minority Leader. The respective Democratic minority leaders of the United States currently, and Senate and House of Representatives, as they seek to secure a spending deal ahead of the December 21st government shutdown deadline. Have we been here before? I believe the president pointed out we've been here 1 year ago. Nancy Pelosi, the California Congresswoman and House Minority Leader, reportedly questioned the manhood of the U.S. president, according to the Washington Post. It's like a manhood thing for him, as if manhood could ever be associated with him. This wall thing, said Pelosi. A source informed the Daily News that Pelosi told colleagues that she was trying to, quote, be the mom, close quote, when Trump and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer argued about the coming funding shutdown. So that whole exchange between Pelosi and President Trump never happened. Goodness gracious. Quote, I was trying to be the mom. I can't explain it to you. It was so wild, close quote, said the Congresswoman said. The Trump administration has long been advocating for stronger border security. Trump's key campaign promise was building the wall on the country's southern border. Subsequently, the issue of funding for the proposed wall has become a stumbling block between the Democrats and Republicans. Can I just point out that you heard Nancy Pelosi say that they were there to negotiate to keep the border open and other issues that divided the White House from the legislature. And she cited Article 1 as the legislator being the first branch of government, implying that it was first in precedence, totally ignoring the fact that we have three co-equal branches, of which the executive branch, represented by Donald Trump, our president, and the vice president, Mike Pence, who sat there like a stone, as if they're not significant at all and don't hold a co-equal place. Let's move on. On the subject of the border wall, from Fox News, a migrant group demands Trump either let them in or pay them each $50,000 to turn around. And this is by Louis Cassiano for Fox News. And here's one of the migrant groups. The Central American migrants marched to the U.S. consulate in Tijuana, Mexico, Tuesday, December 11th. AP photo by Moises Castillo for AP. Two groups of Central American migrants marched to the U.S. consulate in Tijuana on Tuesday with a list of demands, with one group delivering an ultimatum to the Trump administration. Either let them in the U.S. or pay them $50,000 each to go home, the report said. Full stop. Stop right there. Well, no, let's move on, and then I'll give you some interesting information. Among other demands were the deportations to be halted and that asylum seekers be processed faster and in greater numbers, the San Diego Union Tribune reported. The first group of caravan members included about 100 migrants arrived at the consulate around 11 a.m. Alfonso Guerrero Ulloa, an organizer from Honduras, said the $50,000 figure was chosen as a group. Quote, "It may seem like a lot of money to you," Ulloa told the paper, "but it is a small sum compared to everything the United States has stolen from the Honduras," close quote. Okay. Now, he said the money would allow the migrants to return home and start small business. I dispute that claim, and I'll tell you why in a minute. A letter from the group criticized U.S. intervention in Central America and asked the U.S. to remove Honduran President Orlando Hernandez from office. We don't have that. We don't have that power legally, and I stress legally. They can't appeal to us, another sovereign nation, to get rid of a leader in their nation. That's not our job. They gave the consulate 72 hours to respond. Well, it would have taken me 72 seconds to, if I spoke Spanish, translate it into Spanish, the word no. We're not going to do that. A letter from the second group of about 50 migrants arrived at the consulate around 1:20 p.m. asking the U.S. to speed up the asylum process and admit up to 300 asylum seekers each day at the San Ysidro port of entry in San Diego. Currently, around 40 to 100 are admitted, and we have numbers that are way less than that. We have numbers from Paloma that we reported 2 weeks ago from another port of entry, not San Ysidro, that say only 20 to 40 are being admitted to make their application. I'm about to sneeze. Hang on. All right. Quote, "In the meantime, families and women and children who have fled our countries continue to suffer, and the civil society of Tijuana continues to be forced to confront this humanitarian crisis, a refugee crisis caused in great part by the decades of U.S. intervention in Central America." Caused in part, I would amend that, and I might agree with the last phrase, that we have spent some time in Central America shaking things up, allegedly to make things better. That's the only part I agree with. Of the roughly 6,000 migrants who've traveled from Central America to Tijuana, around 700 have returned, 300 have been deported, and 2,500 have applied for humanitarian visas in Mexico, according to Castillo, a caravan member who was with Mexican officials Tuesday. You notice how these numbers keep shifting? You know, we're not getting accurate numbers, so who knows if these are accurate numbers. But there was 1 million, according to several sources, including Alex Beckman and Ronald K. Taylor, and Randall K. Taylor, sorry, and a couple of other sources. There were 1 million visas set aside for these migrants to settle in Mexico, and jobs were offered to them, and so on and so forth. Others have either crossed into the border illegally, moved to other parts of Mexico, or have fallen through the cracks, the Union Tribune said. Quote, a lot of people are leaving because there is no solution here. Douglas Matute, 38, of Tijuana. We thought they would let us in, but Trump sent the military instead of social workers. Now my head just slams on the desk. What did you expect Trump to do? Anyway, let's move on. But I do want to point out, when I said full stop, now I want to bring it back around. I read another article. I thought it was in this article. It's actually in another article we're not going to read, that said that a lot of those people were being offered jobs in the factories in that state, in Mexico, and the wage was $10 a day. So that's $2,600 a year if you work, a 5-day week. It's not much more if you work a 7-day week. But if you work a 5-day week, it's $2,600 a year. $10 a day, $2,600 a year. And that $50,000 figure works out to 19 years and 3 months of income. So if you're a 20-year-old, that $50,000, if you didn't blow through it and live high on the hog and buy yourself a whatever that you could buy down there, car-wise, you could live for 19 years on that at current market value. Of course, current market value will change, but the $50,000 figure that they're asking for is almost 20 years worth of income. Whoever's coaching them is giving them some wacky information. Let's move on. From Zerohedge, Tyler Durden. Good morning, Tyler Durden. What America has done to its young people is appalling. Authored by James Ostrowski via LouRockwell.com. Critics are perhaps too quick to judge America's young people, citing the declining SAT scores, obesity, drug overdoses, addiction to smartphones, among other things, bizarre alterations of personal appearance, and high rates of alleged mental illness. It's not too easy to be annoyed at how some of the cashiers at the grocery store seem unable to carry on a conversation or have chosen to mutilate their faces with pieces of metal. We are perhaps too quick to condemn the crazed behavior of young protesters in recent years without fully understanding what our government, society, and culture have done to these poor souls. Well, I can hear at least one of you out there, saying it's the parents' fault. It's all the parents' fault. But we are the parents. So, okay. Let's begin at the beginning. 40% of Americans are now born out of wedlock. Single-parent families are associated with a long list of social maladies. Children who grow up with only one of their biological parents, nearly always the mother, are disadvantaged across the broad array of outcomes. They are twice as likely to drop out of high school, 2.5 times as likely to become teen mothers, and 1.4 times as likely to be idle out of school and out of work as children who grew up with both parents. So the children who grow up with both parents are not at risk for these issues early in life, before their brain has fully formed and they can make intelligent decisions. Children in one-parent families also have, I lost my place, sorry about that. Children in one-parent families also have lower graded point averages, lower college aspirations, and poorer attendance records. As adults, they have a higher rates of divorce. These patterns persist even after adjusting for differences in race, parents' education, number of siblings, and residential location. It's a quote by Sarah McLanahan. The Consequences of Single Motherhood, American Prospects, summer of 1994. It was written in 94. And I can tell you, raising kids in 94, I saw those effects. In addition to a number of marriages will fail, that means that close to 60% of children will not grow up in the classic nuclear family of the 50s. Now, the whole article is great. You should read it. It's an eye-opener, and it's what I've been saying now since I became a parent, a single parent, that there is no way that if I had, when my oldest was a baby, there is no way that if I had gone out to work, that I could have raised that child to have any sense of self-discipline or to be successful at all. That child would have been one of these statistics that we've just read about. So, what I want to say about this is that being a single parent, being a single woman back in the early 80s, I was criticized for not immediately going out and getting a job. But had I done that, my two oldest children, but primarily my oldest child, as a baby, as an infant, would have been put in the care of strangers who may or may not raise her the way, on a daily basis, the way I wanted her raised, may or may not have had the family values that I had, and I would not have been able to keep the job because of the cost of babysitting for 8 hours, well, more than 8 hours a day if you include travel time, which is part of your work day away from your children. In my situation, it just was not possible. So let's move on. It's a great article. Links in the show notes. China cracks down on Christians. A new era of religious persecution has arrived. And this is an opinion piece by Nina Shea, Bob Fu for Fox News. And this is an AP photo of worshipers in a Chinese church. Zion Church in now we have the hiccups. Zion Church in Beijing is the largest in China's burgeoning Protestant underground. In September, the 11-year-old house church was shut by the government. Its crime? Zion's pastor, Dr. Ezra Mingri Jin, a graduate of Fuller Theological Seminary in Pasadena, California, had rejected an intolerable Chinese Communist Party directive to mount face recognition cameras on his pulpit during turned on the congregation. For his refusal, the pastor and virtually all of Zion's 1,500 members have been detained, searched, and questioned by public security, some more than once. And the worst may be yet to come. Their police records now will be used in China's new Orwellian social credit score system to deny them access to government trains, planes, schools, pensions, and other benefits. All of China's more than 100 million Protestants and Catholics are bracing to have their faith severely tested in an harsh, all-enveloping crackdown. I'm not going to read this whole article. I'm going to stop here, links in the show notes. This is a return to the 90s in terms of, and prior to a time in the Chinese church where you had to smuggle Bibles in, and then most often you would get 1 or maybe 5 Bibles for a church congregation, and those Bibles would be torn up by the congregation in sections to be distributed amongst the congregants. So they wouldn't even have a whole book of the Bible. They would have a handful of pages, depending on how big the house church was. They call them house churches because for a long time it was groups, small groups of, 5, 10, 20 maybe, meeting in someone's house. And so the church itself might only have a portion of one book of the Bible, and then that portion was distributed amongst the congregants. So you might have a few pages, or you might have, even just 1 or 2 chapters. The point is that they would then rotate those pages around the congregation so that people could study. In this instance, things eased up for a period of time, and these house churches were allowed some leniency, and you can see this particular one, Zion Church, grew to 1,500 members, and that photo might not necessarily be them in their church. It looks like it's a stock photo. The point is that we have heard of, in other countries and other situations, the beheadings of Christians. Asia Bibi was just released in Pakistan it was a blasphemy charge against the Prophet Muhammad, but what she actually did to get herself arrested was offer a drink of water to one of her Muslim co-workers while they were at their place of employment. That was what she actually did. All she did was offer the Muslim co-worker a cup of water. We're also very grateful and pleased for the work of the ACLJ, the American Center for Law and Justice, their international efforts to get Pastor Brunson released from prison in Turkey after almost 25 years, I think it's 23 years actually, of service to a Turkish community as a Christian pastor, never having had any arrests or charges or allegations of any kind of contravention of Turkish law up to the point he was arrested. And even then, he was not arrested for contravening Turkish law. All right, let's go back to the desk. On second thought, I almost forgot. There's one more thing. From yesterday, as a special treat for Pyre Media, who is very interested in all things Poland and maybe a little bit less interested in climate change, we're going to the climate change conference in Katowice, Poland. So let's go.
We're here at the Central Square in Katowice, Poland. We're covering the United Nations Climate Change Conference. It's the 24th annual being held in this Polish city. Now, right behind me is one of the public displays around the city. There's not a lot of them here. And there's a man inside giving a lecture to about 5 to 10 people who I only suspect are in there trying to warm up because it is unforgivingly cold here in Poland. But it looks tropical, right? There's tropical plants growing on the wall. They want you to believe that you can survive in a winter climate here and be comfortable with just some tarping and another form of insulation that I'll show you just around the corner here. It's very familiar to me as a farmer, so come on. So just around the corner here is the sort of insulation you might use in your barn or your doghouse. If your animal spends any time outside, it's straw. They want you to believe that you can survive in a Polish climate and survive comfortably with plastic tarping and straw, eco-friendly straw. But there's something else that I noticed that is, again, very familiar to me as a Westerner, as someone from Alberta. Keep walking. It's our old friend, the frost fighter heater. This is pumping hot air inside this little meeting shack, and it's plugged in. There's the power cord, you can see, and it's plugged into an outlet that runs along the ground, and this thing is pumping hot air. If you come around the corner, there's the little tunnel, and it comes all around the corner, and it is pumping hot air to make these climate change fighters very comfortable inside their little meeting house. This is just like everything else at the climate change conference. It's fake, it's misleading, and it's a lie. For the Rebel.media, I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid.
Thank you, Sheila Gunn-Reid, for Rebel Media. We don't often feature their content. Not sure why. Maybe we just don't review it enough. Maybe I should put it in my news feed. At any rate, that was a special treat for Pyre Media, who thought that he was going to have a long weekend and was disabused of that thought and is now on his way out of state to do whatever it is that he does on a regular basis, 5 days a week, sometimes 7. So since we blew our time limit long before I remembered that I had that little treat for Pyre Media, you know, here we are, 10 minutes over, 9 minutes and 12 seconds over our time limit. But I felt like the stories, especially the opening clip with the president, the edited clip, and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, felt like it was important to bring it to you because the president has said that if the government shuts down again this year, it would be the second year in a row, that he will take the responsibility fully on his shoulders as a representative of the people's will. Unlike his counterparts in that discussion, Queen Nancy and King Chuck, who know that the American people have needs. But clearly, Nancy and Chuck are not part of the American people and don't know what our needs are. I'd also like to ask you to pray for the YouTube channel and for Justin and his family, locked and loaded 100%. We got information last week that he is receiving death threats. And his family's safety is being threatened because he discovered that the group that he was going to go join in New Mexico as a patriot militiaman to fill the gap in New Mexico where the governor refuses to send National Guard to the border. He discovered that group is not on the up and up, and he's now receiving death threats because he exposed them. So please pray for Justin and the Locked and Loaded channel family up in Wisconsin, as well as Pyre Media's safe travels out of state for the next couple of days. For me and the Shepherd, we hope you have a wonderful day, and until we see you again, be blessed.